It's Friday, July 14th, 2023. Start out with our usual shill segment. I will refer you over to patreon.com/Ozone Nightmare. You can support the show over there. You can also go to the show homepage, and on the right, as you are facing the page, I don't know how you'd be facing away and seeing it, but still, I'd like to say that on your right-hand side, you will see a row of slightly rounded squares with little images in them. One will have what looks like a truncated book with a little bookmark that will take you over to Lando's Amazon author page where you can buy his books. You'll see one with a PayPal logo. That one will let you donate through PayPal if you prefer that over Patreon. There is a YouTube link for our YouTube channel that does have videos, mostly gameplay and my art streams. That's really all that's there, not much else. And then there is a little skull which will take you to my link tree that has all my art links in it, all in one kind of easy place. And as far as I am aware, the code Ozone still works to allow you to have 2 months free podcasting on Libsyn. If you really just want to do that retrospective on that 1984 series that nobody's ever heard of, that ran for 6 episodes and was canceled, and you just have to tell people about it, go for it, because I like that type of stuff. So please do. And you could do it for free, and then never make one again. Or keep going, whichever.
Is the show supported at all? I haven't asked this in, forever.
Well, we did just get a new patron from the show I did down in Las Vegas. The woman that I interviewed, who is Len's production designer, started supporting us, which I was
really
yeah. I guess she thought that I was in enough of a
it's all you.
Scumbag.
It's all you. It's all you.
Yes, we have 3 people that are supporting at $11.51 a month, which is $11.51 more than I expected.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Oh yeah, they revamped the Patreon page. I guess that looks better. Well, it doesn't look bad. Colors don't look quite right to me, but yeah.
So I'm gonna do a what do you call it? An object review? Yeah, I got one of those uplift desks.
Uplift desk.
You ever seen these? It's a standing sitting desk.
Oh yeah. God,
so
I've seen these.
Well, the thing is, I've had. So, we moved recently, right? Mm-hmm. And I've had the same standing desk for 10 years that I built from IKEA parts, right? Sure. Because, remember in the beginning, nobody was selling standing desks. So it was like if you wanted one,
true. Yes.
Yeah, remember you were balancing shit on a box and fucking stuff like that.
Yes,
yeah.
I was.
Yeah, so but the thing is I built this desk out of IKEA parts, and I built it so well that I just never felt the need to replace it. And I've had it for years, and honestly, I haven't gotten rid of it. It's still here. What happened was I can't write at a standing desk. I don't know if I've explained this before. If I try to write standing, I lose track of my body and I fall over. It's a really weird, I don't know, object of intensity. Where I'm just so not in my body. So I had a little desk nearby where I would sit and write. And I figured after I moved, in an attempt to make myself feel better, from leaving Vermont.
Ooh, a cherry laminate color is nice.
Oh,
red.
Hold on, I'll get there. Yeah, I would get myself a new desk that I could use for writing and standing. So I figured I'd get one of these cool desks from this company because I'd read very good reviews. Now they have a million features, and one of the things I like is that you can get a hammock underneath your desk.
I saw that.
I just like it. I don't have a need for it.
Well,
I just like that.
Sure.
But I was looking at their site for the longest time because they do a lot of different types of I mean, the mechanisms, basically they have a really good electric mechanism for going up and down. It's fantastic. I think it has like 350 pounds of force. So like I could sit on it and just go up and down all day, right? So the mechanics are all the same. Plus they do the you can either get the T legs or get the C legs, which is very neat. I went with the T legs because though I was massively lured by their awesome different countertops that they can do. They do a dry erase table, which for writing I was fucking tempted. Let me tell you, to be able to just dry erase like on my desk as I'm writing. Nobody got that, by the way. Do you get that? Why that's so alluring?
To have it where you could just write on the desk?
Yeah.
Oh, of course. I would doodle stuff. Yeah, of course. No,
Christ.
I completely understand that. No,
I told a bunch of people, my wife including, and they were like, "Well, what's the point of that? Just get a Post-it note." And I'm like,
"Oh no, it's just
it's just the fact that I can scribble whatever on it really quickly, and then just,
oh no.
Yeah, yeah. See, so you get it. See, there you go. But I was lured away from that because they do a craft table, and the craft table. If you type in craft table, you'll find it. That sucked me in because it's got has two hatches that pop up that you can put stuff in, and then it's got drawers built in, and you can use it from both sides. And I was like, ooh, it's like that's exactly the type of weird table that I want in my life. I got it. It's like 60 inches long. It's neat because normally your desk gets covered in shit and then you like barely have desk anymore. I like it because it's got these hatches that pop up that are on these hinges that let you fold it flat on the desk, and they're basically, there's two compartments that cover like half the desk. You have to keep those clear because you can't use the hatches then. And I actually stick a lot of my writing stuff in there, so it forces me to keep the area clear, which means I always have clear space on my desk. It's me fighting my own thought process. But they're really nice. Other than the fact that their tabletops are goddamn heavy. I will say that getting it up the stairs to my office was a
slog.
A trial. Yeah, because my stairs are really narrow and my wife she couldn't really help me, so in the end I grabbed the whole thing. I wonder how much this thing weighs, because I grabbed this thing and I basically was just hoisting it. Did they tell you how much it weighs?
Oh, I'm sure they do. Yeah.
But once I actually got everything set up and the installation, like the construction of it, was far more easy than I thought it was going to be. I gotta say, it's a really nice standing desk. I'm sitting at it right now. Because we're podcasting, and oh god, calling it that's terrible. It's really nice.
Recording sounds a lot
better. Yes, we're recording. Do they have the weight on it? I don't think they do.
Really? I'm surprised. Usually they do.
It's not light, I'll tell you that. My wife was standing behind me as I was hoisting it up the stairs. As
Which
my
one
spotter.
Did you get? You got the.
It's called the Uplift Height Adjustable Craft Table.
Craft table. Hold on, where is that? Products. I'll bet you it's here. Okay.
I've got dimensions, but I don't have weight.
That's weird. Where is it? Is it? Why does it say craft table? I don't see craft table. Is it under the regular standing desk thing, or is it under something else?
Hold on 1 second.
That's really weird.
I think this is why. I kind of
found it. I got it. It's under the regular. It's just called a standing desk, but then you see it. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. Oh, it's adjustable. It is adjustable. Yeah. But it's neat because normally with standing desks, it's just a thing that goes up and down, and you have like a board on top of it, right?
Right.
Whereas with this, it's like there's drawers and there's fucking hatches and yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed that a lot, and it came quickly. And wait, hold on, details. Maybe there's anything on the weight.
It's got.
No, there's no weight. No, there's no weight.
Hold on, I'm looking at the specs.
I'll give you the weight. It's fucking heavy. That's what it is.
Well, that's really fascinating because how could they not tell you the weight?
Yeah. Hold on. Let's see specs. Does it give you anything in specs?
No, I looked in there. I didn't see it.
Oh yeah, look at that.
That's actually. Hold on. Let me try this. Oops. Wait a minute.
Yeah. UV cure. Oh no. Oh, that's the lifting.
That's how much you can take.
That's the lifting. It's the lifting capacity.
That's really weird. I'm surprised they don't. That's very odd that they would not have the weight somewhere. Because that's important to know.
Of the table. Yeah, of the tabletop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely heavy. But it's beautiful. It's honestly, it's probably one of the most beautiful desks. I think I could
figure ever. Oh,
what's that?
Interesting. I thought I was going to figure out how.
Oh, do the math.
Well, no, because Amazon will tell you.
Do they sell them through Amazon?
Well, that's what I'm looking at. Okay, here's Uplift. Let me look. Now these are the.
Do they sell?
Ones.
Oh, do they sell them through Amazon? I didn't even realize.
Everything gets sold through Amazon. So that would be considered. It's 2 legs, right? 2 legs.
It's 2 legs, yeah.
Okay, so that's a 2 leg. Let's see. Oh, they might not sell the crafting. Oh, wait, I just saw it. Where was it? I just saw it said craft somewhere. Where the hell was it? Anyway, go on. Continue with your review. I'll let you know what I found.
Another thing. I just wanted to say that it was probably one of the nicest desks I've had. And I avoided the whole adjustable thing for the longest time because I didn't know. You know me. I'm one of those people like I like something that is only one thing. I didn't necessarily want one that went up and down, but I hurt my feet enough and you know, I get to the end of the day and like I want to write sitting, but I want to do most things standing. And yeah, it was just I went for it, and it's nice. It is very nice. I'm impressed. It wasn't cheap and it ain't fucking light, but it's nice when you get something that you're like that you don't feel like you wasted your money. And if my IKEA table has lasted for longer than a decade, I expect this thing to last 2 or more. So
yeah, I've had the same desk since I moved to California.
No.
Oh yeah, no, I've had this forever. This is the same desk. I've just changed what's on top of it for the standing stuff.
Because you got a standing thing.
Yeah, I got a converter. Because I didn't want to replace. I need the drawers and everything.
Actually, you know what? Now that you say that,
yeah,
I realize I've had my standing desk as a standing desk for a decade, but the IKEA parts themselves were part of the IKEA Galant series. I don't know if they sell them anymore. I've had those since. Oh man, I've had those since I lived in. Oh God. You know what? I think the parts for my table are like 20 years old. I think that I didn't put them into a standing table like combination until about 10 years ago. But I think the parts themselves are that old. Yeah, it's weird. Because the build that
you should have done, do you still have the box for it or no?
What?
Because the label that it was shipped in.
Right? Oh wait, the uplift desk thing.
It would have to tell you.
Right. I thought you were asking me about the IKEA thing that I've had for years.
No, the box for the standing desk. That's what I mean.
No. It's you know what I like when you can build your own shit, and I was very proud of that IKEA desk for a long time because it wasn't easy to build it because their tables will only go up so high, and then I basically had to take another tabletop and put like almost like riser legs on it and put it on top to create like a double decker like desk to get the height. It also helps that I'm not massively tall. If I was like 6 foot, the shit never would have worked. But the fact that I'm only 5'9", perfect. You know, sometimes it pays not to be huge. But it doesn't matter now because they have these fucking adjustable ones that go up and down.
Sure.
So, yeah, it's a really great product. It's just expensive. I mean, I guess that's the thing is that there's a lot of cool shit out there, but you always have to say the stipulation. It's cool, but it's expensive. It's like that Nanoleaf shit. I fucking love that shit. It's cool, but it's expensive. You know, and I guess that goes for a lot of products, doesn't it? Because like we were talking about this don't want to call them stupid because who knows what they're gonna do with them. But that's the Apple fucking goggles thing and how expensive they're gonna be.
The Vision Pros.
And you're like, yes, somebody will probably find some really cool shit to do with it, but they're still fucking expensive. I wonder if they expect those to replace your computer. I wonder if that's the direction they're going.
For some people, it will be. Some people will use it for spatial computing. That's correct. Some people will.
Yeah, I mean, I had I know somebody who doesn't have a computer anymore. They do everything with their phone and an iPad.
Sure.
And I was like, I could never do that. I was like, where do you store your files? And he's like, in the cloud.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but like everything? Like, yeah, he just uploaded everything. And I'm kind of like, there's an amazing sort of nomad-like nature to that, to be able to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And we do live in an age where electronically you can be far more nomadic than you ever were in the past, because as long as there's electricity and there's signal, you can kind of throw everything into the ether and just
that's the idea.
Well, let's think about it. You don't need movies, right? You don't need to carry books. You don't need a massive computer. What else? You don't need your photos, right? You don't need big bulky photo books. And if you're on a small enough computer, you don't really need a big desk, so you can just sit on your lap wherever. I mean, yeah, think of all the things you don't need to haul around anymore if you just wanted to be kind of like a tech nomad.
Yeah.
You know?
You can do it.
The problem is,
do it.
Yeah, the problem is what scale of hiccup wipes you out?
Well, I mean, depends. It does depend, but yes, you have to have some. At the very least, you need a backup connectivity idea.
Whereas, you know what? I haven't used iCloud in an amazing amount of time. Is iCloud any good now? Because they still push it like fucking the mob, where they're like, "Don't you want? Wouldn't it be awful if something happened to you without iCloud?"
I think the fairest thing to say is it's better than it was.
It's expensive.
I would not rely on iCloud for anything that isn't photos and like messaging. Maybe.
Jesus Christ. I won't depend on iCloud for anything.
There's a number of reasons why. Let's put it this way. iCloud, I don't know many professionals.
Yeah.
Or even non-professionals. Or let's put it this way. This is the best way to put it. If it's something you really need, iCloud probably shouldn't be your only avenue to get it back. It may be the easiest in the way that it integrates to your Apple hardware.
But that's how they get you, is they make it easy.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you really want to make sure, you better have it somewhere else too.
Yeah.
So
it's
not
real. What does it say? It's not real unless you've got it saved in 2 places.
Unless it exists in 3 places. 3.
Is it 3? Okay.
Yes. Well, because basically there's physical cloud and usually the device itself. So you could say 2 other places besides the device you took it on, if you want to put it that way. But you want 3 total. 2, well, I mean, I guess 2. I always say 3.
You know what?
I think it's
I really can't give a shit because I have, I think, like 6 hard drives with just backups of everything.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've probably got 4 or 5. So yeah.
Oh, by the way, just because thinking about the hard drive thing and what I have stored on my hard drives reminded me of this. So apparently Farscape is not a readily known show anymore. It's considered obscure.
I'm not surprised by that.
I was trying to. So before the show, Joe and I here were going on about print art and stuff like that, like getting prints of artists that you like and paying them directly and things like that. And I was trying to find some of the Save Farscape posters that they did, right? To see if I could buy some, because there was an artist who did those. And I didn't know this. Did you know there was like, I think it was like 100 of them. Did you ever see that?
Oh, I remember. Oh, yeah. I remember seeing, I mean, I don't think I saw 100, but I remember seeing variant after variant of them around. Yeah.
I saw a small image, like a small collected thing of all 100. And I did
I've never seen all of them. I remember seeing probably about 20 different ones.
Whoever the guy who did it, he did like every monster in that show.
Oh, I remember that when it was going on, it was a very, very passionate project.
Oh yeah, listen, I I am still passionate about Farscape.
Well, this is the thing you have to remember, is that show is 24 years old.
No.
Yeah.
Is it really?
99 is when that show started.
Oh my God.
Which means it's 24
so
years
old.
old. Not yet. Well, that's number one. The other thing is it was a sci-fi show.
Yeah.
Which, sci-fi has never really broken through, except for Expanse, sort of. But otherwise, people don't know sci-fi.
Yeah,
and it was an Australian-American show with puppets. That was never going to be a breakthrough thing.
Yeah.
Plus, there was something else on at the same time that was bigger. I think X-Files was still on. I'm pretty sure X-Files was still going on when that show. So you have to remember, these things get overshadowed.
There was another sci-fi show that eventually was one of the reasons why I think Farscape got forced out.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the show was.
But
it wasn't Lex.
99 was season.
Was it Expanse? Because didn't Expanse start?
Expanse is no. It was not. Because Farscape ran for 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Or 4. Okay.
5.
So Expanse only that's a 2010 era type show. Expanse started in.
What was the other big sci-fi show?
Oh yeah, season 1 was 2016. Or sorry, 2015.
And then Stargate started picking up a lot of attention too.
That could be it. It could actually.
I love that Stargate basically took all the people from Farscape.
Well, hey, why not, right? Let's see. Where's the programming? Programming. Here it is. Main list of programs. Here's the years. So there was Farscape. Sliders was at the same time. I don't know if that was.
Well, there was a period where Farscape was putting out a lot of shows.
It must have been the original Stargate. Stargate SG-1 didn't start until Stargate SG-1. No, that was 2002. So actually, you know what? I'll bet you that was it. Because Farscape in 2002, it ended in 2003. That could be what killed it. Battlestar Galactica 2. No, that was after. Yeah. So that was after. Is there anything else? Oh, Flash Gordon. I remember watching that attempt at a reboot. Yeah. No, none of these so far are ones that I remember being
weird.
Big.
Yeah. But the thing I realized about it was that I love that show. That show is like a profound part of my life at that point.
Yeah.
I've watched that show many times.
I think you're right. I think it's Stargate.
With Stargate.
Whoa, that's interesting.
I couldn't
so Stargate
find...
SG-1 started on Showtime. It moved to Sci-Fi in 2002. I bet you that's what it was. I think at that point they were probably because Starjate Essgee show title. I would bet that Stargate was a cheaper show and was more popular. So when it moved, it probably
it was budgeting that killed Farscape.
What
they basically said we want
Farscape? I'm looking at it.
They wanted them to bring in the episodes in for like half the price.
See. I'm looking. Why did Farscape? Who cares? I don't care about that stuff. All right, does this say why it was canceled?
Everything I read was that basically.
Well, the budget was definitely it. The budget was part of it.
They wanted them to do the show for half the price, and Henson and Kemper basically turned around and said, "We can't do that. We're going to walk. We'd rather bring the show to a close than basically bring in subpar episodes."
Yeah, I think there was something else. I think it might have been Stargate coming over and the price. I don't think it was just the price. I think it was something else.
Well, probably because they had another show that cost less, that had more viewership. You know.
Yeah.
But again, I was trying to find the art for it, and I couldn't find it. And then as I was trying to read about it, it came to my attention that Farscape has left a very small footprint. That like, it's just not remembered. I mean, there's select people who remember it, who loved it. I mean, was it James Gunn obviously loved the show because he used it as a model for Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, and he admits that. But yeah, it's just funny how that show didn't have as much of an effect.
Oh,
and
you know what? It wasn't it was not Stargate. There was a change in the leadership at Sci-Fi, and they wanted to pivot to paranormal shows.
Well, yeah.
That's why they wanted to do more of that because they were cheaper. They were
Ghost
reality
Hunters.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, Farscape is a great example of fans actually causing something to happen, because the Save Farscape movement essentially made it so that they did the miniseries Peacekeeper Wars. And though the Peacekeeper Wars are flawed, they did manage to squeeze the final season of the show into a miniseries and give closure to the show.
Well, I had forgotten this, but apparently they had... Sci-Fi had announced that season 4 and 5... so it went 5 seasons, right? So season
Pretty sure it's
5.
4, and then Peacekeeper Wars is the 5th season.
I'll tell you're right. So they had confirmed that there was going to be a season 4 and 5. They'd already greenlit it, and then they turned around and said, "No, that makes sense with a change in leadership." Okay.
Yeah, and Peacekeeper Wars, when you look at it, it is very obviously a season 5. They just condensed it.
It's a very condensed season 5.
Yeah. And it's like getting the cliff notes for a season.
Please tie them up. Thank you.
Yeah, but at least you got that. I mean,
I agree. It's better than it's. I mean, I think every review you read, and I remember this at the time when it came out, they were like, "Look, is this what we wanted? Is this everything? No. Does it beat getting nothing? Yes. So whatever. Shut up."
The show came to a conclusion.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised at all that nobody knows about it, or that few people remember it that aren't.
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
I don't think so.
I've talked to a few people people who are even like my age, who are like, I never saw Farscape, and forget younger people, they've never fucking heard of Farscape, and I'm like, man, that's so sad. And when you start trying to explain the show, it just comes off so weird.
Well, the other thing, okay, let me just, because I remember even at the time when it was on, you were watching it and I wasn't. I remember because you kept going on about it.
Yeah, so in the beginning, I watched it and you didn't.
And I didn't. And so that's what I'm saying. And I would be a person who would be an audience for it.
No, and I think
I wasn't watching it.
I think the thing that eventually happened was I lost access to television, like completely. Because remember, I was doing my master's degrees, and I had no television. And you started watching it. Honestly, listen, if you want to know why this podcast exists, I'm telling you it's Farscape. Because Joe used to watch the episodes of Farscape and then call me and tell me what had happened.
This fucking thing. Wow.
Yeah,
like, I know, I've seen it.
And do one of his reviews, right? And he would basically review it for me and tell me everything that happened. I'd be like, awesome! And then we did that for like almost an entire season.
Yeah.
Until I eventually... Yeah.
Here's something else. Voyager and Enterprise, Star Trek, was on at that time too. So this is what I'm saying, is it's a lot
they
of
had
things.
competition. They had competition.
So that's why I think a lot of people, even our age, don't know, because they watch it. Like I was watching Voyager. I know that. You know, I was not watching the Sci-Fi Channel very much. And Farscape was hard to look at like the promos for it and really know if you could, and you couldn't jump into it. That's the other thing. You could not jump in.
No, and it was weird. I mean, that's one of the things I loved about it. It was fucking weird, and still is weird. I mean, the living ship and all the weird aliens, and the fact that they tried really hard to stick with the practical effect puppetry, and to bring that shit through. I mean, they got so Dark Crystal at times that the Skeksis themselves, a knockoff of the Skeksis, are the villains in one of the episodes. Who vomited acid. So it's just weird to realize that a show that had such a profound effect on me and my sense of storytelling and things like that is a blip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it was interesting when there's like other shows that everybody knows, but it's like everybody knows Star Trek.
You don't have to tell me. I'm the guy who champions Total Recall 2070, and fucking nobody's heard of that thing.
Yeah.
Nobody's heard of that one. I was talking to a guy, one of the late nights I did with the guy who does
listen, that episode.
He's a total 90s guy, and he knew nothing about this show. Nothing.
And that episode of them on the ship with the fear drug.
Oh, there's multiple. I mean, the two Crichtons, the entire thing with Scorpius.
No. I'm talking. Hold on. Farscape is awesome. I'm talking about Blade Runner. Yeah, the Blade Runner show.
Well, that's the one where they're in the ice and the rock is affecting them. It's not a drug. It's the rock. It's the psychic rock.
Yeah, is it? No. The episode it was Total Recall, right?
Total Recall 2070.
I can never remember what the show is called because it was both. They basically they bought one premise and they just used Total Recall.
Yeah,
and
it's
Blade
really
Runner.
Blade Runner 2070, but yes.
And that's why I keep wanting to call it. Yeah, so Total Recall.
Right too. Yeah.
But the Total Recall, they had an episode in there where they were on a ship and there was something that was causing everybody to freak out. And
yes, it was a ship that was buried in the ice, and there was a psychic rock. It's the weird. It's not. When I say psychic rock, it's like this large monolith. I mean, they were ripping off both X-Files and 2001.
Yeah, and it was making everybody see the experience, their fears.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And what I love about that episode is that they get to the end and they've survived, and the main guy says to the replicant, where he's like, because that's what they were. He says to the replicant, his partner, he's like, well, it's a good thing it didn't affect you. He's like, you really pulled us through. And he's like, yeah, right. And then everyone goes to sleep, and when the replicant sits down at the controls, he looks at the mirror and he sees himself as a like wires and gears robot, and you realize that it has affected him the whole time, and yet he still did the right thing. And I mean, it's a very good show. It is better than it is remembered for being. It's better than it has any right being.
That's absolutely that's why I've been writing for 3 years some way of trying to get this series, a review of this series, and at some point it's
right. Better than it has any right being. Farscape was better than it had any right being. All the weird shit that they did.
Yes, the title of that episode, if anyone's curious, is Rough Whimper. Or no, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. Sorry, not Rough Whimper Insanity. Hold on, I got the wrong one. I clicked on the wrong one. It is. Where is it?
Yeah, and this isn't like the RoboCop show that had no
Astral
budget.
Projections. That's the one.
Yeah. This isn't like the RoboCop show that had no budget. This show had a budget. I mean, it looked good.
Yeah,
it looked good, and it had like this smoky noir look to it.
Yes, and the funny part, because I've been writing this up, so one of the things that is interesting about the look is I think the look is accidental. I think the look is because they didn't have the money for sets, so they just made a lot of things very dark and shadowy. And a lot of times it helps. It makes it better.
I think they probably learned something from shows like Tech Wars, where they were supposed to be in the future, and they tried to be like, oh, look at all this technology. And like it actually looks kind of cheesy when you look at it in that respect. Yeah. Whereas if you go dark, where you can't necessarily see where the buildings end, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
it works really well.
You don't see a lot of lines in interior buildings. There's a lot of stuff that's just in shadow, and I agree. It looks better for that.
It's a very dark future.
It is. I mean, the only thing that really, really looks horrible are the vehicles. Yeah. Whatever they should not have attempted to make future.
Oh
cars.
Yeah, then they were like really square.
You remember the old Tiny Tots cars, those really plasticky, bubbly looking cars?
Yeah.
They're those. They're essentially blue spray painted big versions of those. But I mean, when somebody opens the door, the whole thing just ripples and wobbles in a really terrible way. Yeah, that is, you can't miss that. That's
whatever. You know what? The controls for Moya, the manual controls for Moya and Farscape was a computer mouse that I had.
Yeah.
So when I saw it pop up, I was like, hey, really like. There used to be a website where you could see all the stuff they reappropriated to use in the show. So like the computer mouses, the lady shavers. There was some
the lady's razor that was Qui-Gon's communicator in the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, shit like that. I love when they do shit like that.
Oh, I like that stuff too. Yeah, I mean that's famously the Millennium Falcon and Blade Runner is a building. Stuff like that. So
yeah, and in Blade Runner, the movie Blade Runner, it worked that they were on an Earth that people were fleeing.
Yeah.
And that's why there was a dilapidated nature to it.
Yeah.
But it is interesting when you find these shows that you like. What's different about Total Recall, the show, is that show did not profoundly affect you when it was coming out. You found out about that show after the fact.
No, I did not. The one that nobody knows about that I actually really liked when it was on was Odyssey 5. I watched that when it was on, and that one just...
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That shit fucking... And then when you found out they weren't doing it anymore, you were losing your mind.
I was infuriated because that show was well done, and they ended it on a cliffhanger. So just goes to show you it's not necessarily a new thing. It's been going on a while.
No, and that's why I do subscribe to the idea that every show should have a twofold ending at the end of a season. Never cliffhanger it. Leave something open, but also close the door.
Or you film both, and if you don't have a commitment, you air the finale. because it's not like, and this is the stupid part too. Yeah. It's not as if most of these shows could not figure out a way, a Better Tomorrow 2 style, to bring back, if you actually killed somebody and realized, oh no, we're getting another season, we need this person back, you'll figure it out. Especially if it's science fiction. It's easy, but even if it isn't, you can do it.
We love it when awesome characters come back from the dead.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like when Garth Knight shows up in Knight Rider, and it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And they're like, oh, it's because he was the brother that was. Why wasn't he in this? Oh, because he's a bad guy. And why do they look exactly the same? Even though Michael Long has had his face reconfigured. It's because the father really idealized the son that was the bad son, so he wanted him to look like him, even though that makes no fucking sense. So he just gave him the same face. That's why he has a goatee.
That's also fucked up in so many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It breaks down really hard when you look at it from.
I always forget that Michael Knight got reconstructive surgery.
Yes, Michael Long was a completely different looking person.
Yeah, and I love those little 80s details that we always forget that really bring out the fucked upness of a show. Mm-hmm. That like Michael Knight had reconstructive surgery, and that Lion-O from the Thundercats is actually like the youngest member of the team.
Right. Yeah.
Because there was an accident in his what do you call it? His cryogenic chamber.
Yeah, whatever chamber.
So sure. He's this big hunky guy, but really he's like a 12-year-old.
Yeah, he's like 14.
And Wile E. Cat and Wile E. Kit are actually like 3 years older than him.
Which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, because they're like, oh, fuck you, Lion-O. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. which is the reason that Lion-O always gets, treated like a child, because he's a kid. He's a big beefy kid,
Yeah.
Yes. Shows from then. Was it 90s or 80s? What was it?
Thundercats is 80s. Yeah.
It's like late 80s, I think.
As well as Knight Rider is also 80s. Thundercats was 85 to 89 was the original run.
There you go, yeah.
So late 80s. You're right, mid to late. And Knight Rider was 82 to 5 or 6 or something.
Oh, man. I almost got my son to watch Knight Rider the other day. He was asking me about it.
You could probably condense. I'll tell you this. Having watched the whole thing,
the way that we almost got him to go for it, he asked us what it was about, and I basically said, "It's about a guy who's got a robot car and they solve crimes." Yeah. And he was like, "Robot car?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he's got a robot car that talks and is like a crime lab and does shit and they solve crimes." And he was like, "Oh, he's like, he was interested. He was interested." Yeah.
Oh, if you condense it down to just select episodes, your son will love it.
Yeah,
because the good episodes are good. The problem is there's so many that are just boring. So you just have to whittle it down. And basically, any episodes with Carr, Goliath, you pick a couple other ones, the one where Kit dies and comes back, like stuff like that. Kids will respond to that. There's the gimmick episodes are the good ones. You just have to skip the rest. It's like Michael Knight comes into town and stops a mob boss from running who cares? Skip it. Whatever. That's going to be nothing. But you hear that there's some kind of mastermind or secret weapon or, like Junkyard Dog is the one where Kit dies. That's the one you watch because Kit goes into the acid. Your son's going to be crying or, about it. And then he's going to come back and he's got PTSD.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah.
We watched So I have started them on the Chris Pine Star Treks, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're shiny and it's a good way to kind of get them in. Mm-hmm. But they've seen footage of Strange New Worlds and they're interested. So we watched Star Trek Beyond, right?
Yeah, sure.
Which, honestly, I really like Star Trek Beyond. It got a lot of trash when it came out. I think Star Trek Beyond is way better than Into Darkness, and watching that movie again makes me wish there was another Star Trek movie with the Pine crew, right? But when they destroy the Enterprise at the beginning of the movie, my kids were on the edge of their seats because they were sitting there going, well, they'll pull out, right? Like, it's that whole, no, they'll get out of this. Yeah, they'll get out of this. And when they cut the engine arms off the back of the ship, my son had this look on his face like, oh, shit. When the fucking thing, think how many times Next Gen they crashed the Enterprise in the movies.
Of course. Yeah.
But like when they did that, that's the first time he's ever seen them destroy the ship. So when they actually actively destroyed the Enterprise, he was like baffled because, and I think that's one of Beyond's strengths, that it gets the crew out of the ship and makes you realize that Star Trek is more than just the Enterprise. You know, it's still good. And then when they come back in the Franklin, they come back in the Franklin, which is a cool design, by the way. I do like the shape of the Franklin. I realized after the fact, it's got this weird kind of V into the saucer area. My son was like, when they did the scene at the end when they're building the ship, he was like, are they rebuilding the Franklin? I'm like, no, sweetheart. I was like, they're not rebuilding the Franklin.
No,
it's like, the Franklin's a relic. I was like, they're rebuilding the Enterprise.
It's the Enterprise. It's always going to be the Enterprise.
It's always going to be the Enterprise, yeah. Honestly, you know, with the Picard series, I kind of wish they would have left it as the Titan. You know, it'd be interesting to not have an Enterprise for a while. Yeah, retire the name for a bit.
They knew they could. They had to go full. That's why I said they punched the nostalgia pedal through the floor
as hard as they could.
Had to.
The 10 bet. So you just texted me the 10 best episodes.
Number one is the one I talked about. I knew it would be. Number one is Junkyard Dog, but Garth is in there. Goliath is in there. Cars.
Look at that. Look at that goatee there.
Yep, that's it. I mean, the funniest thing about that is I always wondered. Because it's like everything else. Your memory is of the stuff that's the best. So I always thought there were more Garth Knight episodes, and there's not. And I didn't really know why. So I was kind of curious. It's because Hasselhoff didn't like playing him. He didn't like being evil. Because he changed his voice, and he was, being a dirtbag to everybody. And he really didn't like it. He did not like playing that person. Himself. He just didn't like having to do it.
You know what? What's his name? The Rock doesn't like movies of his that have non-happy endings.
Well, right, but it's just that was interesting because I always thought, Garth is great.
Yeah, because
the two of them are great.
One of the last times I got tattooed, my tattooist and I would always watch movies, and he was like, "What do you want to watch?" And I was like, "We should watch Doom." And he's like, "What the hell is Doom?" And I was like, "Oh, you'll love it." I was like, "It's practically a B movie," and we're so used to The Rock now being like the star of the movie. That when we watched the Doom and realized that he was basically like co-lead with Karl Urban and then ends up being the bad guy and then ends up being the bad guy who dies, my tattooist was like, whoa. He's like, what the fuck? I'm like, yeah. I was like, that's why Doom is a fun movie to go back and watch because it's from an era where The Rock wasn't, the almighty all shit. Can't have a dark ending. It's always good with The Rock, Yeah. Anyway,
but if you watch those 10 episodes, your kids will think it's the best show that's ever been made. Just don't watch anything else. Just watch those 10. I mean,
listen, there's a few shows like that if you just watch.
No, I agree. Stuff. But what I'm saying,
listen,
is
next
you show
gen,
them everything, they'll lose interest. You show them those, they'll stay.
You can condense Next Gen into like 2 seasons, 2 perfect seasons.
Yeah, no, it is yes.
Right, and Deep Space Nine.
In particular, you can jettison the first 2 seasons, except for about 3 episodes of Next Gen.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. There's a lot of shows that you can, like Farscape. The downside of Farscape is the first season is a setup season. It's weak.
It's Deep Space Nine's first season.
Exactly, but it sets a lot of shit up, and then once you get rolling, you've got all the homework from the first season. Yes, to rely on, yep. Right? Yep. But Farscape itself, it doesn't get good till season 2. Like season 1 is you getting into the world. It's almost like the introduction to the greater story.
The weirdness overcomes all the deficits because it's so unlike everything else. But
story-wise, season 2 kicks in, and then it's a fucking run to the end.
Well, that's why I don't agree with people that Deep Space Nine's first season is disposable either. I think it's so different from what Trek was. At that point, that I think it overcomes its problems.
Well, no one thought a space station was going to be
a space station. Well, not just a space station. If you think about it, all the other ones kind of flirted with the idea of aliens. Worf was the Klingon, and Data was an android, but everybody else was essential. I mean, I know the counselor was a Betazid, whatever it is, but she was still she was a woman. Whatever, it was a human woman. Whereas Deep Space Nine is you've got Odo, you've got Quark. You've got, Kira is a hardcore ultra-nationalist or ultra-religious nationalist terrorist.
And you cannot forget Dax. I think one of the things about Dax is the fact that Dax is an alien living inside of a host.
Yep. And half of the people that are on the show besides the Cardassians are, all these things are, that's what I mean about, season 1 of Deep Space Nine is a setup as well, but who cares?
Humans are not the primary.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the religious stuff is very different for Trek too. You never got into religion in the other ones like this. Not like this one did. So, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, and Sisko is the only Starfleet captain who left to be a god.
Left to be a god and told Jean-Luc Picard to fuck off in the first 10 minutes. Or whatever. In the first arc, he tells what everybody's favorite captain of the last show was to get fucked.
I love that, too. Okay, honestly.
He's so angry. He's so angry that you're just waiting for him to destroy
when you
him.
meet... who's the guy who's the captain of the Titan? What's his name?
It's not Smith. What is that guy's name?
Yeah, the guy who's basically an
Captain
asshole
Chicago, whatever his name is. Yeah, that guy.
Chicago.
Yeah, Captain Chicago.
What is his? Yeah, so the guy who's the captain of the Titan.
I don't remember.
Picard.
What the fuck is that guy's name?
Oh, I can't remember that captain because he dies.
It's not Smith, but it's something like that. The Titan.
Either way, yeah.
Here it is. Who was the captain?
You got it?
Wait a minute. Oh, this is the. Oh, Jesus, no, that's the other Titan. Sorry, hold on. Here it is. Captain was Shaw, not Smith.
Shaw. There you go. Yeah. So all this, like, the fact that Shaw is as pissed off with Picard as he does, that whole scene in the little bar area where he's like, "You want to know where I met your dad for the first time?" That feels so much like Sisko.
That's why it never worked for me the way it did for other people, because I'm like, yeah, this is Sisko.
Yeah,
This is somebody, which is fine, except that he's nowhere near as good in that whole thing.
Because Sisko is so much
like
more
he was
intense.
about to throw him out the fucking window. He was angry.
Well, yeah, because Picard had killed. Picard was the reason his wife was dead, and they were on his space station.
I understand.
It was his territory.
In that scene, he was on the Enterprise. Remember?
Was he still?
He's in their ready room or whatever. No, he's or the conference room table room. Yes, I remember because he's at the end of the Picard's sitting at the end of that long table, and Sisko will not sit down. He's glaring at him like he's going. If he had laser eyes, Picard would be a neck and a fucking outfit that was smoldering.
Yeah, it's Sisko is different, and that's good. The captains need to be different. They're different, Yeah. Anyway, so I don't even know where we're going.
But no, it does not. It does not surprise. Oh God, I accidentally. I'm not even going to say what I just did. I'll just say this: I was Googling Sisko confronts Picard, and I accidentally put an S in front of Picard's name. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not. Yeah. They're on the. Yes, they're on. That looks like the Enterprise to me. I'm just checking because I want to make sure I don't remember. Yeah, because
the Enterprise brought him.
Yeah, they're on the Enterprise. Yes.
Yeah.
That's because I'm like, because the rounded windows were not
Deep
Space Nine.
Deep Space Nine did a really good job of working with remnants from Next Gen, like the way Sisko dealt with Picard, the way that the entire show handled the Riker clone.
Yep.
Which was like a forgotten
when Q
episode.
showed up and Sisko punches him and he's like, "Oh, you're not Picard at all." I mean, not that anybody really needed to be told that, but and the whole thing where when they went to war, that's why those two shows.
They made a better use of what's his name? Cole Meany. What was his name?
O'Brien.
O'Brien. They made a better use of O'Brien. Worf was great in Next Gen, but Worf was fucking amazing in Deep Space Nine. They gave him such an opportunity to expand.
That is the character that has been used the best throughout Trek. Period, top to bottom. His arc is amazing. I mean, something you and writers would appreciate is the way that character has grown from what he was to what he ended up as. Unbelievable. I mean, really, just better than any other character I can think of. And whether they knew it or not, and I don't really believe that they actually had any idea of how smart this was, but putting Deep Space Nine on to overlap Next Gen was so brilliantly done because it was such a beautiful... Maybe they did to some degree, but maybe they didn't really understand how good an idea this was that contrast. Where Picard was, diplomat, we're going to try to solve this without firing. Sisko's like, fuck it, war. It's war.
No, and what's weird, because in the Picard series, he's far more aggressive. Because we're in the Nebula, he's like, we need to attack. And I was like,
sure, yeah.
Jesus, Picard, settle down.
Well, that does make a little sense because of everything that's happened in the past. It's just some of the things that happened in the past don't make any sense. That's the problem. But yeah, no, I agree. It's,
Yeah. You know what? These are the great sci-fi shows that we grew up with, that we were watching. I only can imagine what the great sci-fi shows of tomorrow have been. Well, you know what? Like Supernatural. I know that my oldest, Supernatural was a big show for my oldest. It went for fucking 15 seasons or some shit like that. I'm wondering if that'll
watched
be.
It, but I did go. For
No, listen. I've never watched it either, but it wasn't my show. But I know that is
obviously it was popular enough to go for 15 seasons. Not
that's one of those
so,
touchstone shows for a whole generation of people.
I guess, it must be.
Like Buffy, dude. I can tell you a ton of people that have never even heard of Buffy. Yeah, growing up, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, there was a period there where everybody was watching that goddamn show. I mean, Joss Whedon's career is built on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So it'll be fascinating to see what shows go on to become, the next iconic thing, And for me, it's nice to know that I can go back and try to catch shows that I missed. Because I know that there was a while there where Sense8 was a big thing. I've never seen it, but I'm curious. But I can go back and watch it now. You know?
Yeah, until Netflix decides to just remove it.
Well, there's that too. Because Farscape, you know what? I don't think Farscape is anywhere. Right? Actually, wait. You know what? I did find Farscape the other day. Plex has Farscape.
Wow, that's interesting.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. God, I warn everybody about Plex. It's on Plex. It's on Crackle. It's on Peacock, Pluto, and Tubi. Now, of all those, the one I would tell you to watch it on is Tubi.
I was midway watching through the whole thing again on Amazon when they pulled it all. Fuckers.
Yeah. I will caution you, anybody, as far as Peacock, Plex, the way they place commercials is awful. There's a bunch of them, and they will come in the middle of an action sequence. I mean, just stupidly placed. Tubi seems to have less commercials, and they seem to maybe be at least algorithmically placed at natural points.
I just started thinking about pornos with ads where, right as you get into the climax, it's like, oh, here's an ad.
Well, that's essentially what they do with the action stuff. I mean, literally an explosion could start and it cuts to a Tide Pod commercial. It's like, what the fuck, man? Come on. This is just destroying. I mean, you want to talk about how people say, oh, you've destroyed. That's destroying the way media is experienced. It's just when you interrupt,
Man.
Imagine here. I'll give you an example of how for everybody for pop culture. When Spock starts to give his speech, "You have been and will always be," and Tide Pod commercial comes up before he finishes the line. That's what this shit is. That's what Plex's.
Oh my god,
are.
My kids have never really dealt with broadcast television, and at one point we were at my mother's house and we were watching TV on broadcast television, and my daughter was like, I don't even want to watch this. She's like, this is awful.
Yeah.
And we counted something at one point there was close to 10 commercials in each break.
No, it is awful. It really is awful.
Terrible.
No, it is. It's bad. And I'm the same way because we barely ever watch television except for baseball games. And it's so bad. It really is awful.
Let's take a break from the baseball now and throw 40 ads at you.
The only thing is, you at least with that, when exactly you have a rough idea of how long it's going to be because it is very timed, so it's a little bit better. And it's generally when there's a pitcher is changed or the end of the inning, so that's okay, or the half even. So at least you have a rhythm to it. You can get up, go to the bathroom. It's going to be about 2 minutes. There's a rough, how long it takes for stuff to happen. But other stuff, they will just it really does stick out as being awful. I mean, especially on a generation that grows up on streaming. Oh, forget it. There's no tolerance for it, and I don't blame them. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's growing up. That's why HBO was amazing because you were like, television with no ads. Oh my god!
It's not TV. It's HBO. That's why.
The things that evolve and change.
Speaking of things evolving and changing, this isn't really going to be a review per se because the actual film itself is not different. But if you have an ability to watch Giant Mnemonic in black and white, you absolutely should do it. It's a different movie. It really is. I own it. I have it on Blu-ray. It's been sitting on my shelf. I've been meaning to watch it. But it happened to pop up that Criterion added it to its AI collection thing. And I went, okay, well, I'll just watch it through there then, because really, what's the difference with something like that? It's fine. It's the same difference to me. So I watched it, and
it is funny sometimes how the universe puts movies in your place at the right time. Isn't it?
Yeah, I would just never have expected it to be on Criterion. I might have expected it somewhere else, but the fact that Criterion got it, I believe, exclusively as a streaming thing, because I don't think most people would...
the black and white version or any version?
the black and white version. No,
okay,
the black and white version.
No, that makes perfect sense for them to get just that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just the idea of Giant Mnemonic on Criterion just seems probably to most people to be odd, because it's just not generally regarded as a Criterion type movie. Regardless, it doesn't matter. I've always enjoyed it. So have you. But in black and white, it is a far superior movie just because it's in black and white. I mean, literally, that's the only thing that I can tell that's been changed about the movie, because everything else, including the stuff that I don't like, is still there. But it does change the nature of the movie. Again, there's not really a point in reviewing it because nothing has changed. They didn't do any edits to it that I can discern. Or if they did, it's so minor it doesn't matter. But I really don't think so, because Keanu Reeves has a very specific way of talking in that film. So you remember his way of pronouncing things. Ralphie, what's the score, Ralphie? Like, you know if that line has been changed.
Ralphie,
it has not been changed. Ralphie,
yeah.
Ralphie, you fucked me.
Yeah,
what the fuck, Ralphie?
Yeah, he does. He does talk a certain way in that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and Henry Rollins has a very specific way of talking. So again, if things were changed, I probably would have noticed it only because the people in this movie speak in a certain way. Ice-T has a certain way of... There's a lot of distinctive speaking people in this, in the way they deliver their lines. So I think I would have noticed that they changed any of that. I didn't notice any shot differences. Dolph Lundgren's still in there, that kind of shit. You know, it's...
Yeah, you know what?
I wish they
the sad thing is Dolph Lundgren's character could have been... You could have tweaked that character just a little bit and made it so much better.
Yeah.
Like, you could have kept him as a religious nut, but don't make him like a ridiculous savage.
Well, I was going to say, the problem is that the satire is flimsy. It's not effectively done. If they had played it cool and made it where you didn't actually realize he was an assassin until, you know, if you thought that he was going to try to talk him into giving the information over somehow. And then the joke is that when Keanu Reeves is like, okay, well, how do I confess to you? He's like, well, I'll cut your head off. And he takes a knife out. You know, then it's like, okay, that was a joke. But when he's lumbering around saying, sinners, it's like, okay, this is stupid, because this movie otherwise isn't this goofy. You know, even the guy with the removable thumb isn't as goofy as fucking Dolph Lundgren's character. But the idea that, you know, he's like, well, services are held. Well, what if I triple your fee? Well, in that case, I can do a special mass fee. Like, that's funny. That's satire. But then at that point, it goes off the rails. So that's still there. That's what I mean about, I don't think it was edited. I looked at the running time is something like 16 seconds difference. It's probably something in the credits. That's all I can imagine.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's interesting. 16 seconds. What did you cut?
It's very, very small. So I have a feeling that it's the credits are probably leaving something out or whatever. It's probably something, because because I don't know how the credits change for something like that in terms of, okay, there's color grading and there's color editors, and that, well, obviously there isn't in this because the director did it, I think. So does that mean they just cut some of the credits off because this is a new edition of it? That, I guess, could reduce it by a small amount of seconds, but it's probably just dumb shit like that. It's obviously not enough. You know, if it was several minutes, it's like, oh, okay, they edited something.
Okay.
But it's not.
I'm gonna share this with you because this is an intersection of sorts.
I shall gain strength from the sharing. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, fuck her. So you were talking about Giant Mnemonic, and I was looking at Giant Mnemonic posters, and I found a alternate Neuromancer cover that they did, which led me to the fact that apparently they did a limited poster run of the Neuromancer trilogy, where they did a screen print of Neuromancer, Mona Lisa Overdrive, and Count Zero. And they're pretty cool looking. I gotta say,
like a triptych, or are they?
You can get it. You can get it as a triptych, or you can get them separately. I'm going to send you the link so you can see this, because anybody who likes this kind of weird shit should check it out if they get a chance.
Let's see. This is the.
It was like Citadel 9 did it?
No. This is the guy who's. I have several of this guy's. I've kickstarted a bunch of this guy's books. Yeah.
Oh, good, excellent.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
His name's Deathburger on Twitter. It's great. It is. That's his name. That's what he goes by. It's Deathburger. In fact, isn't this the guy who did the poster where you have to find all the people? It's the same guy, isn't it?
No, is it?
I think so.
No, it's a different type of art. This isn't the same guy.
What's the name of the poster that you had? What's it called?
Was it the? Oh Jesus!
It's like Midnight City or something. What is it?
Warp Core Cafe.
Warp Core Cafe.
Yeah. By the way, if anyone's looking for a really fun sci-fi poster, check out the Warp Core Cafe. That'll keep you busy for days.
Oh, okay, you're right. But that guy did something like this in a multiple series. Have you ever seen his version of this thing?
No.
Oh God. Okay, hold on. Death Burger. That's funny. I just assumed it was one of those.
I'm sorry. I just love that name.
Isn't that great?
I wasn't prepared for it.
Yeah. If you go to, I think, it's not an original.
He's got an imprint store as well.
Yeah.
No. There's money that has to be spent.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So if you go to his limited edition prints.
Yeah.
Okay. Go to the Raid. It's called the Raid. And then there's the Raid Incident on line 13. So if you click that and open it up, right?
Is this ArtStation? What is this? Society 6? Where am I looking for him?
No, you're on Citadel. You're on his website, Citadel9.com. Go to Shop Protocol, limited edition prints.
Citadel 9.
Yeah. Yeah, This is hysterical because this is this guy's version of this.
And what is it? And
go to Shop
prints?
Protocol, limited edition prints, and the one you're looking for, there's two of them at the bottom. They're called the Raid and the Raid 2. Pick whatever one you want.
Oh, yeah, I know this. Yeah. I've seen this one.
This is the same idea, where it's, okay, this is all pop culture stuff.
Yeah, and there's another one that's Hanamura Showdown.
Yes, that's the first one, the Raid, the Hanamura Showdown, and then there's the Raid 2.
The Raid is a really good one too. Yeah,
the Raid is a really good one. Yeah.
Didn't he just do another one too that's all robots?
Well, the Kickstarter, he's still working on that one. Yeah.
Hero Complex. I think Hero Complex has it.
Oh, probably. Yeah. I mean, I've got all his direct editions because I've kickstarted his stuff from the beginning.
Fantastic! It's just fantastic. I'm gonna have to get some of these.
Mm-hmm. I mean, his stuff. He's referring to a lot. I mean, his video. He's all over the place. I mean, I'm looking. There's Bishop torn in half on a railroad track that you can barely even see unless you really look for it. They Live, We Sleep on a wall. There's Hellboy punching something with a Demogorgon. There's Molaram with a guy's heart next to Sadako from The Ring. There's a Necronomicon next to them. There's whatever the hell that thing is from Kronos next to the Hellraiser box, next to the Event Horizon core, next to a demon
absolutely.
From Doom.
It's
everywhere.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes.
Yeah, Joe and I were having a very long conversation
very long.
About prints and art and
it was
the state of and we had to cut it.
Yeah, 46 minutes. I said we should probably start recording now. It probably just could have been the beginning of the show, but whatever.
No, because we were just going on about what we wanted to buy and different artists and things like that.
Yeah, who cares?
But yes, the fact that this guy does these, that's very funny. Like I said, sometimes the intersections are so interesting, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. We were talking about.
Well, like I said, it's not really a review. It's still Giant Demonic, the same way it was, but the black and white makes it feel like more of a Japanese. I told Lando when I was talking about the other night. I said it feels like Tetsuo the Iron Man, without, of course, all the psychotic energy. But it definitely, by subtracting color, something else was added. What that something else is, I can't really quantify, but it is there. And I think for some of it is because it removes. I don't know. There's almost a distraction to the color work in that film sometimes, where taking it out really lets you focus on all the set design and how, a movie that is definitely.
You know what it's like? It's like with certain artists. Art Adams. When you see Art Adams in color, his art presents one way. But when you see Art Adams in black and white, it's a completely different creature.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's kind of the same thing, I think, with this to some degree.
Or like the Akira comics that they colored.
Oh, yeah.
Which was good. I like them, but they're different when you see them in black and white, because then you're seeing all the line work differently. The color doesn't take away anything from the line work, and that's kind of what it is. So, again, I said this in my short review. I'll say the same thing here. If you don't like Giant Mnemonic, I don't think this is going to fix that. If you fundamentally don't like the movie, you might hate it less if you really don't like it. But I think if you did like it or thought it had potential, this might bump it up a notch. It's not going to change it from a 5 to a 10 on the scale, but it might make it a 7. And to me, I will never watch it in color again. This is it. This is the assembly cut version of this film. Black and white is the way, to me, this movie always, and from what the director says, bullshit or not, because you never know, he says that was always his intent. I don't know if that's true, but whatever. Whether intentional or not, this is, to me, the best version of the film. So, the only problem, like I said, is right now I think you can only watch that unless you buy it on Criterion. I assume it will eventually. You probably rent it other places. I can't see that you wouldn't be able to rent it. I did not check, but I would assume you can rent it. But right now, if you just want to stream it, if you have Criterion, it's there. Otherwise, wait until it shows up other places, or find it however you can. And if it's at all interesting, I'd say watch it, and you might really be surprised at how much better it is. Because I was. I thought, okay. It's still going to be the same movie, but there might be a neat gimmick to it being in black and white. And I was really... Because I didn't actually intend to watch it the whole way through. I was like, let me start watching this thing and just see if the black and white just is a gimmick and not care. And, which sounds stupid for somebody who bought it, but I was just like, because there was no other way to watch it. So I'm like, screw it. Worst case, I know some people that I can give it to if I really don't like it. And I really like it, so I'm glad that I have it. So, again, if you already kind of like the movie, don't bother. Again, if you don't like the movie, don't bother. This is not going to change it. But if you already kind of had a soft spot for it or actually like it, you might like it better. Maybe not. Some people might actually hate it in black and white. If you don't like black and white, too, I don't know if it's going to change your mind. But for the right audience, for the built-in audience, it might actually be to me, it was a significant improvement. So, yeah, it's just kind of it's out there. At least on one avenue, and probably rentable other places, and might be worth a look. The movie I do want to review. Now, this is another...
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's what I was expecting. I was like, no way it can be this short tonight.
No. It sort of could have been, because this... So, Vinegar Syndrome I've mentioned many times. I generally buy my highly enjoyable lesser films from, like my Cynthia Rothrock stuff, New York Ninja, that type of thing. That's generally what they do. But they also occasionally do actually good high art films that are either unknown or that they just managed to secure. So as I was buying, what did I buy in this? I bought Blade in the Dark, which is a well-known giallo from, I think it's Mario Bava, or is it Lucio Fulci? Who did... Hold on, I want to make sure I get this right. Who did Blade in the Dark? I think it's Bava who did. No, maybe it's Fulci. Who did Blade in the Dark?
That is a great title, though. I'll tell you that.
What, a Blade in the Dark?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's an excellent movie. I think it's got to... Hold on. Who did Blade in the Dark?
Titles are
Bava. It is Bava. Okay, I had a feeling, because I was like, there's not enough eyeballs in it. It's not Fulci. Fulci's the eyeball guy. No, seriously. Fulci loves piercing, ripping, shredding eyeballs.
No, I'm going to say this for titles, just because we're talking about titles and it's important.
Sure.
Titles go a long way, and good titles will always kind of make you curious.
Well, yeah, that's going to factor in a second.
No, and I'm going to say this because Len, I haven't seen any of Len's movies.
Oh, great titles.
Right? But his titles are fucking great.
Apocalypse Female Warriors is one of the best titles he's ever had for a movie.
Fist of the Vampire.
Oh yeah, Fist of the Vampire.
That is probably one of the greatest like double genre fucking title names, because it's like a play on Fist of the Dragon. It's Fist of the Vampire. Like, that shit's awesome. So
Challenge of the Five Gauntlets, Blood Prison. Yeah, he has good titles. He does
great
have good titles.
And honestly, have you ever asked him if he?
I will ask him. I don't think I've ever asked him about his titles. I will
ask him if he ponders them, or if they just come to him. Because I know with me and titles, I know that the two books that I have out, the first one came to me in like an instant, which is Artificial Fear, and then the second one, Break World, I didn't know what to call that for a while, and it wasn't until I got about halfway through that I was like, oh, you know what, this makes sense on a lot of levels.
No, I'll ask him. I don't know. I've never asked him about it, but I will. I will. So I picked up, I knew I wanted the Blade in the Dark set, so I got that. Cynthia Rothrock had another film come out, Undefeatable, so I got that one, which we actually, Len and I just reviewed not too long ago, because we both got that release, and it's a fantastic film. And I was looking for a third thing. I like to buy in threes. Kind of like comedy comes in threes, my buying habits tend to be in threes. So I was looking, and I happened across something that said, the title was The Apocalypse Tetralogy, and I went, I've never heard of this. And so I looked at it, and it's a 4-film set that is from a Polish filmmaker. And there's another movie that I've talked about that I love called On the Silver Globe by a Polish filmmaker, which is that's massively long, the movie that he didn't get to finish because the Polish government tried to destroy it, but he secretly saved most of it, but then the rest has to be narrated. And it's a great warped science fiction opera.
I have not heard of that shit.
I talked about it I did a review of it on one of our shows. I was talking about it. It's
wait.
great. Yeah.
I think I remember now then.
Yeah. It's not about the astronauts who land on the planet and then they set up a religious cult and then they
yes. And then it just keeps,
yes.
Okay.
Yes. I so hope that gets a remaster at some point. It's so beautiful. I want to see it in high definition. So anyway, I saw, Polish science fiction, 70s, 80s. Okay, I'm interested. And so I looked at the cover, and like the Apocalypse Tetralogy is a great title. And I'm like, okay, the titles of the movies, as you talked about with titles. The first one's called Gollum. The second one is called The War of the Worlds Next Century. Then the third one is Obi Oba, The End of Civilization. And then the last one's called Gaga, Glory to the Heroes. And I'm like, fuck you, I'm buying this. So I bought it. Sight unseen. I mean, I read a little bit of one. I don't care. Just get whatever. I want it. So I got it. So I watched Gollum, which is the first one, which from what I've read is the one with and I've started the next one, The War of the Worlds Next Century, which is dedicated to H.G. Wells and Orson Welles simultaneously, which is already a good start. And it has to do with Martians on Earth and like manipulation of the media to make them accepted. So I'm like, okay, this is really good. And part of the description is from aliens to artificially created beings, from brainwashed masses to ultraviolet indulgences. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm in. Just send it to me. I want it. It took a fucking month for me to get this thing. Anyway, so I watched Gollum, which is the one that has the least budget. And it was described as a Kafka-esque reverse take on the Gollum mythology, which I'm a big fan of the whole Gollum thing, the Jewish super being that they cropped out of clay. I love that story. I think its story is well told in different ways over multiple media. So I was like, I'm in. And it's a very simple, small scale film. It's very evident that there was a small budget, but it's beautifully done. It feels a lot like a mixture of David Lynch in his early years and Terry Gilliam in his early years. There's some kind of mix and a little bit of Cronenberg, even though there's not really body horror, but there still is this feeling of Cronenberginess in it.
Great ideas, not a lot of budget.
Right. Yes. Because it basically takes place essentially in an apartment complex and a very small surrounding area. That's the totality of the film. You don't ever go anywhere else. Movie starts out and it says that there has been a nuclear war and that there are rumors that the government is attempting to... Now, it depends on how you want to infer this, because it's vague in a sense. My read is that they're trying to unmutate people by genetically engineering either mutated people from the nuclear war into quote-unquote pure humans, or they're trying to engineer people from the ground up, Frankenstein or Gollum style. And the ending does seem to indicate that they are creating beings. But depending on how you interpret the film, because it is highly open to interpretation, it could be either or both. It could actually be both, depending on how you look at it. So the movie starts out, and we get kind of a shot of all these doctors talking about waking this person up, this being up, and that they're going to do testing to see if he's actually a human and if they've been successful, right? And then we cut to this guy in a police station whose name is Pernot, is the character's name, and he's being interrogated about a murder, and he has an alibi, and he's not really sure why they're interrogating him. And in the other room, he looks over and he sees essentially himself, except wearing glasses, also being interrogated. And then he's leaving after they interrogate him, and he basically says, I have nothing to do with this. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. And they're like, all right, fine, get out. And he leaves, and he goes to collect his belongings, because apparently in this world, I don't know if this has anything to do with actual Polish law enforcement whatsoever, but you know how in prison they take your stuff when you go in?
Yeah.
Well, in this, they take everything except what you're literally wearing. Like the clothes on your back stay on, but they have his coat, his hat, blah, blah, blah. So he has a little piece of paper that has a couple letters and number, and he gives it to the guy, and the guy gives him some clothing and a hat, and he says, this isn't my stuff. And he's like, hey, man, that's the ticket for this stuff. So get lost. That's your stuff according to this ticket. So he leaves. But he's saying this isn't my stuff, yet it fits him perfectly. So he goes home, and when he goes home, he sees essentially a, like, what'd you call them? What do you call it when, like, if there's a parade, like a parade orchestra where they're walking and playing, a band, whatever.
A marching band.
Marching band, that's it. I knew there was a name for it. Marching band. He sees a marching band playing, and he's looking at them, and some of the band members, and it's unclear if it's all of them or not, look exactly like him. And he's like, what? But then they're kind of marching away.
This is beginning to feel like that sequence from Ghost in the Shell, the animated anime, where she's going through the city and she keeps seeing versions of herself. And Lynch is big into doubles, and of course, and then again, there's the Gilliam thing because it never really feels real. It feels, fantasy-like almost, fantasy science fiction, very kind of Brazil-y. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where it doesn't really feel like a real world. So he goes into his apartment. So he looks up at his apartment complex, and he notices all the windows are simultaneously opening and closing on their own, and for some reason. And he kind of looks at it sort of funny, and then goes inside. And he goes inside, and he runs into this woman who is either just very promiscuous or perhaps is a prostitute. It's unclear. And he's walking by, and he says hello to her, and he's very kind. He's very kind. He's very innocent. Kind of a not quite slow, but on the borderline almost. So he goes up and he lives in the top apartment, and his landlord. So, out of curiosity, does he have his keys and shit to his place?
Yes, he does have his keys. So that's what I mean about. I think they only took some things. He didn't, So he has his keys. Although there's another part where he seems to have lost them, and then he leaves the key in his door for some reason. Anyway, we'll get to that. So he goes in, and he's there, and his landlord is kind of an asshole and shows up, and he's at different points he's measuring him and writing down his measurements, and he's like, why are you measuring me? He's like, for a survey. So I think you're supposed to think that that's the government saying monitor him. We want to see if he's growing or whatever. And we will periodically cut back to these doctors discussing what they're doing to him, the experimentation. They're like, well, because one doctor's like, should we really be experimenting? He hasn't done anything wrong. Should we keep fucking with him this much? He is a human being. And another one's saying, well, is he? Are you sure? That's why we have to do these tests. We have to see what he is. And it's like cutting back and forth. And so it's all these little vignettes of things that are happening to him. And then we cut back to these doctors who either created him or are monitoring him. And again, because the opening indicates they're waking him up, it seems like they either created him or that they grabbed him and did something to him. And again, it's not really clear. Even when I get to the end, it's not necessarily clear what that is. But so then there's a part where he goes down, and they don't really, this is another thing about the movie where it's got that Gilliam kind of unreality. They don't necessarily show you, like he's in his apartment one scene, and then we cut to the doctors, we cut back, now he's somewhere else. But we never saw him go there. So we don't know what transpired there. And we don't even necessarily know if it's the same him. That's another thing that they start messing with is...
Oh, you're not sure who you're following.
Is this the same Parnot that we were with in the beginning? It's not clear. Intentionally so. Because there are people who actually ask him... Because there's a point where he runs into a character, and the character is like, oh, I have something for you. And he's like, what is it? He's like, well, it's yours. You've always had it, so you'll have it again. And he's like, what are you talking about? And the guy doesn't explain. Stuff like that, where it's like, okay, you don't know what's, and that's, again, that is obviously what's meant is for you to not really be sure about. So there's a part where he goes down to this little shop, and in this shop, there's a woman who repairs dolls for people, and there's a young woman, and there's an older woman, and he's starting to get a little bit friendly with the younger woman, and the younger woman, he's like, oh, can I take you out sometime, essentially? And she's like, no, I can't, I have to work, I have to earn money to help my father get this book back. He loves this book, and he's heartbroken without it, so I have to have it. He's like, well, I can lend you the money. And she's like, no, I'm not going to sell myself to you. And he's like, no, I'm not asking you to do that. I'm just saying I can lend you the money. And she's like, why? And he's like, well, because you want to help your father, and I can help you out, so I can help you with the money. Again, everybody's cynical but him. Everybody's reacting like, well, what do you want? What's the angle? What is this for?
Wait, so is it that he's human, or is it that he has some level of humanity about him?
Well, it's never really clear. That's the thing. It's not clear. The movie intentionally, because like when they throw the dolls into it, there's a thing where she says, he's talking to, because she's like, well, he says, where do you write the owner's name on the doll? And she says, under the wig, nobody ever looks under there. And there's something to that with him because he's bald and you never see him with hair. But the way she says it and looks at him, and then the way other characters mention that he doesn't have hair, there's got to be something to that. Does that mean that if you pulled his scalp off, there would be like a something underneath?
Or that the wig with the number is elsewhere.
So, something like that. Yes, that's the idea. So that is, again, this is all intentional. This is not accidental. Like these are things to make you kind of wonder what's going on. So he goes and gets the money and gives it to her. And then he runs into his landlord, and the landlord says, you have to sign for your brother living here. And he says, what are you talking about? He's like, I got notified there's another Pernot here. So that's got to be your brother, right? And he's like, I have no idea who you're talking about. I was like, well, whatever, sign this. He's like, what am I signing? He's like, well, I'm not going to go chase the other one down. Just sign for him. It doesn't matter. If 2 Pernots, who cares? Just sign it. Where again, it's like, okay, does that mean that he's a replacement, or now there's another one in the building who's going to be his replacement, or whatever? You just don't know. And he says, oh, by the way, they said you have to come in for a dental appointment. He's like, what? My teeth are fine. He's like, hey, man, it's what the government said. Just go in. So he goes to his thing, and then he goes to see the woman, and he brings her the money, and her father's in. He's like, okay, well, and the father's like, what, you're selling your body? He's like, no, he lent us the money. And he turns to me and says, who lends money anymore? He's like, well, I was just helping her out. He's like, she said the book's important to you, so I'm trying to help. And he like starts touching me. He's like, are you really... Are you good? Are you a good human being? Like he's saying this kind of shit to him. He's like, I didn't think there were any, or I didn't think you were real, or something like that. And he's like touching him. And he's like, well, yeah, I'm just trying to help out. And he's like, okay, well, I'm going to get the book and I'm going to bring it to show you because that book has the answer that only you need, or something like that. And we find out that because he's an engraver, he takes an image and he makes the copper plate that they use for like screen printing. So he carves out the image on a plate. And so the father shows up at his place and says, oh, I have the book. And by the way, don't leave your key in here because somebody could just lock you in here. And he's like, well, who would lock me in here? He's like, you never know. So he shows it. He says, oh, that's interesting. You're carving the cover to the book. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, you're carving the cover to this book. But they don't ever really show you what the book is. So I don't know what the book is. But the cover is, and I don't know what this image means. This is either a cultural thing or something that I'm just not smart enough to know. But they show it, and it's a guy hanging by his leg, by one leg, almost an inverted crucifixion where he's hanging by his leg. And I don't know what that image is. I don't know if that's invented.
Isn't that the hanged man from the Tarot deck?
Is that what it is? See, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't know.
He's hanging upside down by his leg.
Hold on, let me look. Let me see what that. Maybe that is it. Oh, you know what? That is it. That's the exact. Holy shit! See, this is the shit I don't know. He's hanging upside down, viewing the world from a completely different perspective, and his facial expression. Yeah, and this guy is always calm. He never gets angry, suggesting that he's in this hanging position by his own choice. He has a halo around his head, symbolizing new insight awareness. Well, that they're trying to make him into a quote pure human being. So okay, so this makes sense. I didn't know this. I literally did not know this. Yes, this is what he's carving. That's interesting. The Hanged Man is a card of ultimate surrender, of being suspended in time, and of martyrdom and sacrifice to the greater. Oh yeah, that's exactly what this is. Well, see, it's a good thing you said that because I didn't know that. So now that, so I don't know what the book then is because they never really explained that, but at least that makes sense that he is supposed to be the Hanged Man. Which at one point there is a guy who is inspecting the building because he sees smoke and thinks there'll be a fire, and he ends up in that position, but they don't ever really explain it. The landlord's just laughing at him as he seems to be dead, hanging by his leg, which is in that position. But that guy's a different guy entirely. It's just some random person. It's not Parnot. So okay, so that's what he's carving. That's fascinating. That's exactly what the image is. Well, so if I knew a little bit more, I would have recognized that. I didn't. So thank you.
You know, the only place you would have encountered that, knowing you, the only place you would have encountered that in your intake would have been was it the Ninth Gate with what's his name?
Ninth Configuration.
No, the Ninth Gate.
Oh, the Johnny Depp one?
Yeah, because in that movie they specifically reference the hanged man,
which is funny because I haven't seen that movie in so long.
And they hang the book guy who tries to help him, the guy who.
Oh, that's right. That is how he's hung.
They hung him like the hanged man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do remember him hanging. I don't remember the thing about the tarot card. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
And I plus I have like 3 tarot card decks, but I don't ever use them. I just have them because they're from artists, so I might have seen it on that too, but I didn't. In any event, so then he's also randomly running into a guy who says he's the landlord's son, and he's insane, and he's like, yeah, my father hates me and I hate him. It's because he tried to make me into a perfect person and he couldn't do it, but that's okay because it's all bullshit and they're just lying to everybody anyway. They say this isn't going on, it's going on, and I know it's all just horse shit, and they're feeding everybody stupid television to keep them docile and confused and distracted because they don't want them to know that they're experimenting on everybody, which in the context of this film probably is accurate, but you don't really know because he is fucking nuts. And his sister is the woman who you're not sure if she was a prostitute or not. So then he goes in for his dental exam, at which point they say that, oh, you have something wrong with your eye. And he's like, no, my eye's fine. They're like, yeah, we have to knock you out and fix your eye. And they knock him out and do something to him. You don't know what. Now, this could be that he's dead and that there's a new version. They could have changed something with him. They could have experimented. You have no idea. Then he wakes back up. And he's like, okay, I have to find out what the hell's going on. And he's walking out because he's like, I'm going to go ask. I got to find out what they're doing to me. I'm going to go find out what this was all about. So when he goes to find out, he runs into that woman, the sister, possible prostitute or not, we're not sure, or whatever. Or just likes guys, whatever. No judgment either way. Runs into her, and she's crying. He says, what's wrong? And she says something about my father hates me because I'm not the perfect thing that he wanted to create. And he's like, well... And then she's saying things like, well, do you like me? Do you think I'm attractive? He's like, sure, you're attractive. And she's like, really? He's like, yeah, why don't we go watch a movie? And she's like, really? You don't want to take me to bed? He's like, no, let's go watch a movie. So again, they're angling him as a virtuous innocent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's like, no, let's just go watch a movie. And she's like, no strings attached or anything. He's like, no, let's just go to the movies. You're nice. I like you. Let's go. So they go, and now she's getting all excited, and they're taking a set of escalators up to what he calls the cinema, and as they're going, they're seeing TV sets that are showing a guy, like a rock star, playing in front of a huge cheering crowd. And she said, oh, can't you hear the people? They're all cheering. This is going to be great. We're going to go up and see a great show and be with people. And he's like, yeah, it sounds great. And there's a part where they're going up, and there's this glaring light that catches him in the eye, and he's kind of shielding his eyes. And he gets to the top of the escalator, and she's gone. She's just completely vanished. And he looks around, and he sees the rock guy is standing on a platform in front of empty bleachers, but the TVs are showing him playing in front of a bunch of people cheering. And he looks at it and he's like, what's, and you hear the director of the thing saying, yeah, this crowd sucks. Can we summon a different crowd? Give me a tape of a different crowd. And his PA or whatever is saying, I think they lost. I got to go find it. And so Parnok goes up to him and says, have you seen a red-haired woman? Who's the woman he was with? He's like, what? I'm in the middle of something here. No, there's no woman here. What are you talking about? He's like, well, she was just with me. He's like, well, there's nobody here. I have to get a replacement crowd. So, fuck off. I'm busy. And so he leaves. And of course, what this is showing is that the crazy guy was right about the fact that they are showing faked images to people, because it's just a guy, literally a guy on a stand, but the TV is showing him essentially green screen in front of a huge stadium crowd.
Yeah.
So Parna goes back down the escalators, and there's a guy at the bottom of one who clearly was not there when they went up. And the guy's laying there, and he's just laying there, and he's got like a little blood on his head, and he's got a helmet that just out of reach. He's like, hey, do you need help? And he's like, well, can you just get me my helmet? Because, I can't reach it. And he's like, that's all you want? You don't want me to call a doctor? He's like, no, I just need something to protect my head. You should always protect your head. And he goes, okay. And he gives him the helmet, and the guy puts the helmet on. And he says something like, watch out and don't let anybody hit you on the head. And Parnok kind of looks at him and goes, okay, you sure you don't need anything else? He's like, nope, I'm good. Thank you. I'm much better now. And Parnok leaves, at which point the guy starts laughing, takes the helmet off and pushes it away and says something along the lines of, and so it doesn't say it, but it infers that probably another Parnok is going to come along and help him out again. Like it's a test to see if he will help him. Because he's laughing like a lunatic, and then immediately takes the helmet off and pushes it out of the way and just sits there waiting. So again, this is the whole movie is just kind of these types of scenes. So I mean, I'm jumping over things because I don't need to repeat every single scene. But then we get towards the end, and the crazy guy comes up to him and hands him a bottle and says, "This is a bottle of my blood. Give this to my father so that it can prove to him that I am of his blood, even if I'm not perfect the way he wanted me to be." And he's like, "Okay, I'll give it to him." And so he goes back to his apartment, and he's sitting there, and the old woman from the doll shop comes up the stairs and says, "Hey, I don't remember what exactly it is." She says, "I forgot something. Can you talk to the landlord because he'll be angry with me?" He's like, "Sure, I'll talk to the landlord for you. I have to give him this bottle and his watch back anyway because he had to fix his watch for him." So he goes over and looks. And he goes in the room, and the landlord, is dead with the engraving thing driven into his neck. And he just kind of collapses, at which point the police arrest him. And they say, "Okay, so why did you kill him?" And he's like, "I didn't kill him." And he says, and there's a part in the middle, because again, this is one, he goes back to the police station at one point to get his ID because he lost his ID. And they said, "Well, when we interviewed you, you had a different name." And he's like, "No, I didn't. I came in. My name was Parnot. Do you have my ID?" And they're like, "Well, I'm off shift, so I can't help you." So again, this is all the stuff to layer, okay, how many of this guy are running around, that type of thing. So they bring him in thinking he murdered the guy, and they're interrogating him, and he's insisting he didn't. And they say, "All right, well, don't leave town because we're pretty sure you did this, but get out." And so he leaves, and he goes again to the guy, and he hands him the thing. And the guy says, "You know what? I think I did give you the wrong clothes last time." And he's like, "Oh, that's fine. Just give me my stuff." And he gives him a hat and a coat. And he says, "Well, thanks," and he leaves. And when he leaves, he goes back up to his apartment again. And he walks in, and the whole place has been trashed, probably by the cops. And there's rats everywhere, and his whole place is just completely a mess. And he just kind of looks, crestfallen, and he turns around and looks, and he sees a hole in the wall where the rats are coming out of. And so he busts through the wall, which is probably the only scene where he has any type of actual real reaction to something. But he knocks the wall down. And behind the wall, he sees some paintings and like a heavy apron hanging up, and then there's an oven. And he opens up the oven, and people throughout the movie are referring to ovens and people in ovens, which again goes back to the Gollum myth of how they created him out of clay. And he opens the oven and pulls out a body. And you can't tell whether the body is burned, like they killed somebody, or if he's in the process of being created. And he takes out of his pocket the card for getting his stuff back, which has a very specific set of characters and a number. It's like GZ565, let's say. Mm-hmm. And he puts it in the mouth of the body and walks out. And he goes down the stairs, and at the bottom of the stairs, when he walks out, he sees the marching band playing. And he just starts running after them, and he picks up a set of cymbals and just starts playing them, and they kind of go around the corner and disappear, at which point the credits start coming up. And as the credits are coming up, they cut to footage, and at first it's kind of blurry, but it's basically what I would say would have to be the president of either the country or someplace, but probably that country, whatever it is, saying that there's all these rumors about genetic manipulation, and I'm here to tell you that they're all full of shit. And you don't see him really clearly at first, but it's a guy wearing glasses, and he's talking at a podium, and there's a big poster.
Oh, is it him? Is it him?
And then the next thing is it gets closer and closer, and you see it's him. Now, and the thing that really, to me, is kind of the foil unicorn is then it cuts in really close, and you see in his hand he's holding a card that says GZ565, and then the movie just ends. It's really good. It's a very simple.
What's the name of this one again?
Gollum, Golem. But look up Gollum 1980, because if you just search Gollum, you'll get the 30s one. There's a modern movie called Gollum. They're all over. So Gollum 1980 is the one you want.
Yeah, and the director is
Peter Selitskin, I think. Yeah, Peter. Well, whatever I'll say the American is. Peter Selitskin. Yes. So I mean, if you look at the images, you see what I'm talking about. It's got a very I see what you mean. This very sort of 12 Monkeys look to it almost. Yes, exactly. It's got a very distinctive color palette, but it's very again simplified. It's very
a lot of oranges and browns. And,
there's orange, green, and brown, and a little bit of blue at the end when he finds the oven room. There's little bits of blue here and there, like when he's outside, it's blue. So again, there's specific use of color type of thing. Great little movie. You know, it's definitely a interpretation film. So you just have to know that going in. This is not a movie that explains everything.
I feel like I saw this movie in the 90s.
It's possible you did. In fact, the picture of him as the president is there in a much clearer image than the movie gives you. So it's funny because that must have been like a set picture or something because he's standing in front of the microphones. You don't even see it that clearly in the film. But it's 90 minutes, so it's not very long. It's actually on YouTube as well. Now, the copy that's on YouTube is pretty dark. You still get the gist of it because I watched a little bit of it to see how bad, if it was a good or bad copy. It's not bad. It's definitely not like when the doctor parts are on, you can't even see the doctors. But honestly, you don't really need to. You can see the words, and that's what matters. So, I'm not going to tell anybody to go buy the whole set based on the movie.
This is part of a collection?
Yes, the Apocalypse Tetralogy, 4 films, those 4 different titles. This is I'm going in chronological order. This was the first one.
And they're all connected, or are they just all?
No, I think they all have similar kind of themes and exploration of politics through science fiction and that type of thing. But I don't think there's any recurring characters, anything like that. I believe they are all independent. Now I haven't watched them all, so I don't know. But I don't think there is any direct connection between them outside of the fact that it's the director in a very short spate of time doing this stuff, doing these types of films. I think that's the only real link.
Man, the reviews on IMDb are not kind.
Oh, I'm sure they wouldn't be because this is definitely a film that is for
1 star. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, because it's not a clear narrative. I mean, these people probably hate David Lynch too. So, it's an artsy-fartsy film.
This is one of those movies where you're dealing with a paranoid situation from the inside rather than watching it from the outside, knowing what's really going on. You're in it,
Yeah, even so, I think most people who just apply a little bit of thinking will come out with probably a pretty good idea of what's going on outside of 1 or 2 scenes that leave a little bit to the imagination. But like I said, it's not the most ambiguous thing I've ever watched, but it does leave some things that you have to sit there and go, okay, well, what was going on there? Was he replaced? Is it the same person? The fact that they start off where they're in the police station with 2 of him immediately lays out that there could be and there's parts where you see shots of rats that are all the same type of rat. So again, there's all this, it's even the description seems to be more concrete than the movie does, where murderous doctors and scientists who believe the secret of human creation is inside the walls of a cast iron oven. Yeah, maybe. I don't know that it necessarily definitely says that, although he does find a body at the end that appears to then be the president of the country, even though the body looks like it was burned to kill him. But then how did the card, unless they all have the same card, because they're all copies? I don't know. It doesn't really matter. That's not the point of the film. It's more of just kind of an interesting thing to think about. So, but I think the only the recurring thing on the first and third movie are nuclear war. The second one is about Martians have landed there not to be feared, or at least that's what the TV personality Iron Idom, which I guess that's probably a common Polish name, has been telling people. His wife is kidnapped. He's tagged like a wild animal, and his nightly scripts are being changed. What his eyes sees no longer match what he tells audiences night after night. Are the Martians as good-natured as believed, or is he being used in a sinister plot that endangers the entire planet? See, a lot of this is probably about media manipulation. That's what it seems like. The end of civilization this sounds like Thunderdome. The world is ravaged by nuclear war. Planet is frozen, and radiation kills anyone who goes outside of the dome. Soft is a shepherd for the last remnants of humanity who have gathered together as they await rescue from a mysterious craft known only as the Ark. He wanders among the masses, performing his regular daily tasks, keeping morale from plummeting, wooing prostitutes, squashing rebellions, and sometimes feeding the hungry. But as the true and sinister nature of the dome comes to light, Soft must ask himself if humanity is worth saving. I know what my answer is, but we'll find out. And then Glory to the Heroes is Scope is a prisoner on a behemoth space station and is chosen, like all fellow prisoners, to volunteer for the exploration of faraway planets. Landing on planet Australia 458, he is given a hero's welcome with sex, booze, and violence that are more than any one man could possibly stomach. But as his new caretakers push him towards more heinous and deplorable acts, Scope finds that his freedom comes with a high price. His own death broadcast live for the viewing pleasure of Australia 458's inhabitants. Is there a way out, or is Scope's fate sealed? So you can see there is a commonality to this, which is the media stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the deception. So that there's obviously, I'm sure, because when these were made, I think Poland was still, I think there was stuff going on with communism. I don't know enough about, you know.
Well, remember when did the wall come down?
Oh, geez, that was late 80s, right?
Yeah.
Was it 89? Sure. Let's see. Let's take a look here. Commonwealth partitions, World War II, post-communism. So
1989. Yeah.
So that's what it is. So this is like the Silver Globe was as well. Comments on probably the government and politics and the fact that, you know, they were getting told a certain view of the world when it was different outside of it. So there's your commonality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I'm going to watch them all because I thought Gollum was great, and I know that, and I started watching War of the Worlds, and it is clear he's got more money in that one because there's immediately more sets, more outside just from the about 15 minutes I've watched.
But it is I mean, looking at the set photos, it is fascinating that he did what he did with as little as he had, because the sets are very plain. But you know, there's this thing about sci-fi. There's two ways you can go with sci-fi. You can do that over detailed, look how big our budget is, sci-fi, right?
Avatar.
And then there's that there's that thing that Total Recall the movie did, which is that when they filmed around the Mexico City, I think it was the Mexico City train station, because it had been built to look very modernist, and it had this very minimalist, modern design. And they ended up filming a lot of the exteriors on Earth at the train station. And it's like, yeah, there's this. Sometimes it's like THX 1138 does this a lot too. It's like the future doesn't necessarily have to look complicated. Sometimes scaling back the sets puts more of a focus on the story and the characters and the tension.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also by doing this in an apartment building where, like, the outside of the apartment building, every window is identical. So again, it's this idea of, well, in every apartment, is there one of him? Because we already know there's at least one other one supposedly in the building. You know what I mean? So it is intentionally both.
Yeah, it's been a while since you brought. It's been a while since you brought like a straight on art film.
Yeah, I was going to say I've been doing a lot of B movies and kind of, you know, action type films. So this was nice. This was actually, it was just funny because I bought a classic Italian slasher, a Rothrock, you know, 90s action punch 'em up, and then this fucking set, which I bought not knowing anything about it outside of reading the vague description and going, okay, I think I'm going to like this even if I don't know anything about it. And so far, Gollum was I watched it twice. I've watched it twice because I was really like, okay, I got it.
You watched it the first time and you're like, I need to see what I missed.
That was kind of it, because I really was curious about some of the stuff to make sure I had caught some things. But also in the second watch, I was also appreciating the lighting and the camera angles and a lot of, because it is a very, yes, it's small budget, small scale, limited locations.
But the story is good.
Yeah, it's completely tailored to its story, and the story suffers not at all, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and this I always go back to this. If your writing is good, if your story is good, you don't need as much as you think you do.
Yes, absolutely.
And people will come with you. People will come with you because the writing is good enough to pull them along.
Yep. So,
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you
go.
Yes,
I'm going to watch the rest. So I would.
I'll be curious to know what the others are like.
I will be, because I think he actually got some notoriety off of the first one, and then that's what it seems like from what I can tell. So yes, I will be curious, but I expect to, because it's in this short time span, I expect them all to feel kind of the same and have the same commentaries. Because, you know, it is, like you said, it's all in that period of communism. And if the first one is about, you know, depending on how you look at it, you could read it as a comment on communism as well. I'm just thinking they're all going to be like that. So I
Hey, there's a lot to be said about communism.
Sure. So yeah, if you've never seen Farscape, go watch it. So really, you have stuff to watch. This episode, there's something for everybody.
This show has a homework list of things to watch.
No, it does.
Outside of all the strange movies that we throw in, there is a hardline list of things that we reference again and again.
But this is a good episode because we have a little bit of. I mean, it's all sci-fi really, but it's a wide spectrum of sci-fi. I mean, Farscape is going to be for a certain type of audience, I think. I mean, I would say everybody, but obviously that's not really true. Giant Mnemonic is for a very specific type of fan. That's why I said it's not going to convert anybody. But if you already liked it, it's a better version. And then Gollum is, I haven't done a really artsy-fartsy, pretentious type film before.
See, I wouldn't say fartsy. Fartsy's when they got a lot of money. Artsy-fartsy is... What was that movie that...
Drawing Restraint... Avant-garde. Oh, God.
Drawing Restraint number 9 is an artsy-fartsy movie because they obviously had money to make that. Right?
Burn.
And it was
to burn.
Yeah, to burn, right? Whereas... It's different. It's an artsy film when there's no money, but it's still good. It's artsy-fartsy when they've got money and it's not good.
And what I like, and what I don't know about the other two. Like this one is based on the Gollum myth. Mm-hmm. And then I know the next one is based on War of the Worlds, as well as I think kind of the... Well, he says H.G. Wells, which of course is the classic... H.G. Wells was H.G. Wells wrote War of the Worlds, right? And then Orson Welles was the one who did the
H.G. Wells. Yes, H.G. Wells wrote it.
So and it's about Martians. So it's obvious that at least
Martian
in the first
invasion,
two,
yes,
that the first two are interpretations of classic literature or stories, which immediately I'm drawn to. I'm always interested in how people reinterpret.
Well, I don't know, because is it based off the book or is it based off the radio broadcast? Because they are different.
It's both. There's Martians have come to Earth now, because the way the description is phrased, I think it's going to turn out that the Martians have invaded, because he says that the main character is a news announcer who realizes he's being fed manipulated news, that it's not true, by the Martians. So I think it's both the fact that he is Orson Welles, but unintentionally, and that Martians have invaded. They're not just on Earth the way he's saying they're here to help us. So, I don't know. I haven't watched it yet, but the way the synopsis reads, that's what I think he's going for. So I think it could be a mix of both. The Martian invasion of H.G. Wells mixed with the media manipulation of Orson Welles. You know what I mean? Put together.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Sort of a good idea, really. Buckaroo Banzai kind of did it, but that's okay. I don't mind that. Maybe Buckaroo Banzai saw this. Doesn't matter. I'm going to watch it because I'm fascinated, but I don't know if the other two are based on anything. I'll find out because I'm sure it'll say it. This other one credits them up front.
As a funny thing, John Big Booty is in, and John Big Booty and John Smallberries is in the Warp Core Cafe picture.
That's excellent.
I haven't found Buckaroo Banzai yet. I don't know if he's there, but I did find them.
Well, that's very funny that they're in it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, anybody who's a big lover of sci-fi, I'm telling you, you should get the Warp Core Cafe, because it literally comes with a little safety
legend,
pin,
right?
A legend of all the people in it. Now I don't want to look at it because I want to see if I can find everybody.
Sure.
And I keep finding people going back, like the space herpes from Ice Pirates is there. Shit like that. It's I love it. So.
No, that's great when people do that stuff.
Yeah, since we're leaping across sci-fi here, so
sure, yeah. So really, this is the sci-fi sprinkle show. Little sprinkle of sci-fi and different variants all over the place from the show. So you have lots of and except for Giant Mnemonic, which I don't think you can watch for free. I don't know that, but I don't think so. Farscape you can watch in multiple avenues for free with ads. Gollum is on YouTube or. I don't know if it's anywhere else. I didn't look, but I know it's on YouTube, at least in a couple places. And the copies aren't terrible. You will get enough out of it if you don't want to commit to buying the Blu-ray, which I completely understand, because this isn't necessarily everybody's cup of tea. So you can watch it on YouTube. I scanned through it, and the copy definitely is good enough to watch. It's not horrible VHS tracking problems kind of shit. It looks like it was ripped off of somebody's television station, but a good rip. Like they actually digitally copied it. But you can watch that for free. Farscape you can watch for free. Giant Mnemonic you can't. And didn't we mention Star Trek is Paramount if you want to go and watch those. Or it's probably in other places too. I think some of it's still on Netflix. So a lot of this stuff can be watched for free. But in particular, I'm really happy there's a good copy of Gollum on YouTube because, again, I'm not going to tell somebody they should buy 4 Blu-rays when I've only watched one of them just for one movie. So it's good to watch this. And I did it sight unseen because I'm a lunatic. I'm not expecting anybody else to. But I really do think, and I will report back, of course, that because these were created within 4 or 5 years of each other, these were created pretty quickly. Because I think it was 80 to 85 is when these movies span. So I'm assuming that much of what he's...
Wow, so yeah, like, all of it before the wall came down.
Right. And the other thing, too, is some directors, as they get older, they change. But the fact that he made these within a very short time period, which isn't to say he didn't have flourishes, I'm sure he did when he had more access to things. But in other words, I think that the general, if nothing else, I expect the directing quality to be the same. I don't think it's going to be... For example, Dario Argento famously... His new work sucks. It just sucks. He I don't know what happened, but he got to a certain point, and most people agree it was probably opera or... Yeah, most people say opera was his last really great giallo, and then just something happened, and it just went into the toilet.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to say, and then he got really into opera.
No, that would have still been better than some of the shit he produced afterwards. Like, don't fucking watch Mother of Tears. Don't watch it. I mean, I reviewed that one of his a while ago, and I went, okay, it's okay, but it's still nothing on his early stuff. So with some people, especially if they have a really specific artistic eye, it can change. Not always. Not everybody does. Spielberg's still Spielberg. Lynch is still Lynch. But that's not everybody. It's just something that happens. So the fact that these are all within a very short time span, I expect that if nothing else, that artistic vision will persist, that there will still be the interesting use of color and shots and all that stuff. But I also think because, as you said, this is all at the same time when there appears to be at least a subtle critique of the government in charge. I'm not thinking that he'll suddenly swing to say, unless they put cattle prods up his rear end, I love communism now. Like, I'm just not expecting that to happen. I think this is clearly, it is about manipulation of the masses by large forces working in the background. And if that's not a communism critique, I'm not sure what it's supposed to be. So I'm guessing I'm going to like all these, but you can at least watch Gollum for free if you don't want to invest in the 4-disc set. And I will tell you as I watch them if the other ones are worth it, and then you can make that decision. So that at least is good. On that long and winding and overwrought note, we will say go forth and enjoy something on your weekend, and we will talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.